Hello, and welcome to this special Christmas episode of Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on episode 19 of Toradora. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. So immediately, one has to wonder why precisely Ryuji's up at 3 in the morning. I guess it makes sense that it happens to be Minori. I guess he's still trying to repair the damage to the relationship that he perceives. Can't say I blame him, because, things didn't exactly end on a great note. So I'm a little bit curious now. Taiga seems to have done some sort of clothes shopping or something. Wow, Taiga really wasn't kidding when she said that she was going to be getting dressed up. That is... I don't know what you'd call it, formal wear, black tie, she's really going all out for the Christmas Eve dance. She even got Ryuji a suit. Wow. So I guess, it's not something she bought for him specifically, but it was a suit that her dad owned but never really fit into, so... that's a pretty extraordinary gift. So, considering how both Ryuji and Taiga are dressed, I'm wondering what precisely the dress code was meant to be for the Christmas Eve dance. Because, I'd figure, somewhat formal, based on school dances I've attended, but, only stuff like the senior prom was, really fancy. And even then... Man, the more that Ryuji's mom just sort of talks about what's going on, the more I feel kind of bad for Ryuji that he has a watch that he doesn't know is effectively an heirloom, and even then it was only taken because his mom thought she could pawn it off for cash quickly if need be. So I guess the goal here is that Ryuji wants to make good with Minori. Apparently he has some sort of gift for her. I'd assume it's some sort of jewelry. the thing is, I'm pretty sure at this stage in the game, she's still not attending. I'm sure Taiga will have worked something out to try and strong arm her into going, like, hey, you broke my ornament. And, like, I know Taiga doesn't really hold it against her, or at least not that she's shown, that's another thing. I've been thinking about it. This scene has been living in my head rent-free. And I feel like when something so utterly horrible happens to you, and it is truly an accident like that, like, I don't think I could be mad at the person who did it. And I feel like that's a fairly universal thing. Like, it's such a horrible thing to happen that you can't even muster anger. Oh dear. Man, Kitamura, he really is out there some days. He can't help himself. I'm getting really mixed messages here about the formality of this dance. Considering how he's dressed, I'd say it's, informal, but everyone else is wearing nice clothes, so you never know. It's probably just him being eccentric more than anything else. Alright, so some people are just wearing, like, street clothes, too, so I guess it's that sort of a dance where you dress nicely if you have a date, you don't if you don't. I can't help but wonder to myself, they haven't shown a shot of the top of the tree, and I don't know, it's still living in my head, the star and all that. I can only imagine it would still be in use, tenuously fixed though it is. I gotta wonder how precisely Ryuji gets strong-armed into serving food. He really is too much of a good Samaritan for his own good sometimes. Like, even though he's wearing what is essentially a fancy tailored suit, he's still serving food to people. Ooh. Poor Ryuji. Little bait and switch there. That's a surprisingly common occurrence where you mistake one person for someone else based on the back of their head. I did that the other day, and it was, rather embarrassing. You really shouldn't, start talking to people unless you're sure that they are who you think they are. I guess in Ryuji's case, it was more he was hoping Minori had shown up. So here's something interesting. Ami and Taiga are both working together, seemingly without anyone intervening, and they're singing. So they both have some form of musical talent, and I guess Christmas was a big enough thing that they put aside their differences. And you know what? I echo Ryuji's sentiment here. This seems like a fairly rehearsed thing. How did they find the time? Especially considering finals and the other preparations. I mean, on the one hand, I don't recognize the song, so I guess it seems more impressive. But even if it were just Christmas carols they were singing, traditional Christmas carols, while it wouldn't take no preparation, I feel like everybody at least has a passing knowledge of Christmas carols, and you'd be able to do things with much less practice. That closing shot on the star unsettles me slightly. Alright, so it seems like now here with Minori, she's not actually doing anything instead of attending the party. It seems more like she's just not attending because of her own hang-ups. And to be fair, if I were in her position, I'd be plugging in the toaster and filling up the bathtub out of shame and guilt. Oh dear. You know, I'm almost wondering if Kitamura would be better off had he just been depressed. Like, he is truly, I don't know, just in rare form, I guess. He can't help himself. You know, that whole Christmas song thing being a surprise, I guess that kind of makes sense in that it's sort of like a secret Christmas present for everyone, but I don't know. I feel like it would have been nice to hint at it a little bit in a background scene or something. Uh-oh. Okay. So it seems like, Taiga has in fact been plotting. She's going to get Minori to show up and instead, go home and wait out, Christmas Eve. It seems like in a weird sort of way things are starting to come to a head here. Ami, I think, is being vague to everyone's detriment if she's not just going to come out and say precisely what she means. I mean, I think she's raising a good point here in that everybody seems to be playing it a little too safe. But at the same time, it doesn't help the situation to be vague. So it seems like, looking at the star and thinking about what Ami said, that might have been precisely the catalyst Ryuji needed to sort of, well, I guess get a clear head and think about things rationally. Of course, whether or not he can truly make amends on Christmas, that remains to be seen. So Taiga, to her benefit, has been, I guess, a good friend and sort of told a little bit of a lie. But, I don't know, that she's just sort of sitting in her apartment alone. It kind of makes the whole thing seem hollow. In a way, it seems like this whole situation is a bit contrived. Because I feel like the situation could have been at least avoided somewhat had Taiga not decided to go home on her own. I mean, I can understand how she feels to a degree. But sometimes deliberately isolating yourself only makes things worse. I get the feeling we're going to witness a little case of mistaken identity here. Whoa. Okay, that wasn't what I was expecting at all. The real question is who's in the suit? Now, I feel like Taiga shouldn't be falling for something like this. Like, I understand that the whole thing's a bit weird and you kind of have to take it at face value, but at the same time, kind of strains credulity. I mean, everybody knows Santa Claus isn't a bear. So, at the very least, Taiga seems to have gotten in the mood. So whoever is doing this, and I've got my suspicions as to who, they're definitely doing this for Taiga's benefit. Although, based on what Ami has said, this might only be destructive in the long term if you keep playing both sides, Because on the one hand, I suspect it's Ryuji in the suit, and, he wants to be with Minori, although that's less and less certain these days. And at the same time, he wants to do right by Taiga, and that might be evolving further. But ultimately, those are two goals that they're kind of mutually exclusive. Ooh. So it seems like Ryuji's act of goodwill has not gone over as well as he might have liked. I find it interesting that Taiga is sort of acting against her own best interest, in that she's deliberately trying to send him away. I guess the worst part is that, she's not telling the truth here. Man, I like how she sort of takes advantage of Ryuji's good nature, in that he doesn't want Minori to think Taiga lied to her. And it is kind of sad that she's sort of putting herself in this situation. She couches it as it's her gift to him, even though she really doesn't want to be alone. Like, that's the weirdest part. She's fighting so hard to be alone, even though that's precisely the opposite of what she wants. I guess it doesn't help that Ryuji, at least in Taiga's mind, when he gets together with Minori, they essentially can't be friends anymore. I mean, that's not strictly true, but he'll have someone else to spend his time with, and therefore, because his time is a zero-sum game, she'll get less of it. One wonders how much of this could have been avoided if everyone had just been honest, but I guess that doesn't make for a good story. I guess the real question here is whether or not everybody else is going to pick up the pieces here now that Taiga's finally started being honest. Oh, this is an interesting development. Minori might have been on her way to the party, or she might not have been, but she witnessed this incident. Oh dear. This is truly a dire situation indeed. I feel like if she has any sense at all, she'll direct Ryuji to do the right thing here. You know, well, as much as Taiga might want to set Ryuji up with Minori, Minori knows that I guess that now's not the time. There's more important things going on. Alright, so this is interesting. She's not coming out with it, but she's just sort of effectively saying, I don't want a boyfriend right now. So I guess, in a sense, nobody's having a good time, really. And nobody's being particularly honest about the exact reasons why, either. At least, not to the people they should be being honest with. Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. Merry Christmas, Space Cowboy.